안녕하세요. 지니포럼과 함께하는 더 나은 미래, 소셜과 금융의 만남 스페셜토크 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 여러분 혹시 부동산에 관심 많으신가요? 그렇다면 오늘 모실 연사님의 이야기 집중해서 들어주시면 될 것 같은데요. 부동산 가치평가 솔루션 자이랜드 Raymond Chetti 임동준 대표님 모셨습니다. 안녕하세요.
Hi, my name is Ray Chetti, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of XAI Land. We use big data and AI to accurately value and predict trends and valuations for both commercial and residential real estate in South Korea.
네, 대표님 자이랜드를 어떻게 설립하게 되셨을까요?
It all started when I came to Korea in 2011, right after I graduated from SUNY Buffalo with a major in city planning. I first started out here in Korea as a real estate development consultant, where I was a data analyst. That was the first time I can actually analyze and experience Korean real estate data. When I first came here, I didn't even know what a dongmyeon or even was. Fast forward a few years to 2015, that's when I can actually start meeting seniors who had property, they own land, and they actually asked me, Ray, can you help me sell my property? And that was when I can experience the buying and selling process. And that's when I can see it's very common for both buyers and sellers to have completely different ideas about the value of property. And that's when I could learn, how do you actually value a property in South Korea? What is the process to get an appraisal? How much does it cost and how much time does it take? And that's when I started to see deals were falling through, because sometimes buyers and sellers couldn't actually afford to pay for the appraisal. So they couldn't agree on the market value of the property. So that's when I started to think, who tried using AI to value real estate at the time, back in 2017? And when I started speaking to more of my real estate seniors, I could clearly see that there was an opportunity for us to do that here in Korea. So that's why we started.
그러면 자이랜드가 금융혁신 서비스로도 충분히 역할을 하고 있는 것 같거든요. 혹시 그거에 대해서는 어떻게 생각하시는지 여쭤보고 싶어요.
So our main role as a financial service is to provide banks and other financial institutions who are responsible for providing loans for mortgages unbiased, accurate, and safe real estate valuation data, so they can more confidently provide mortgages to people who really need to buy them, to buy homes.
제대로 된 가치평가, 과연 왜 중요할까요?
So it's important to serve this kind of data for two reasons. The first reason is because sometimes, as humans, when we are asked to do something, we'll do it with a bias, whether we mean to or we don't mean to. And when it comes to real estate valuations, there could be some room for bias depending on who may ask to do the valuation, whether it's the buyer, the seller, or maybe even the bank itself. So that's why for us at XAI Land, our data truly is unbiased. It is made by an AI. And our goal is to make it as close to transactions and market values as possible. Second, we hope that our data can actually prevent over speculation. How does this work? So in my experience, I've seen many times where owners of real estate would overestimate the value of their property, and they would feel very confident about it, despite them not having any real estate related experience. So with our data, I hope that it could provide buyers and sellers a common ground, an unbiased common ground, where they can negotiate fairly based on the market price for today's value.
Do you have any real case with the seller?
So actually, I'm a part of this volunteer club called Seoul Rotary Club here. And I remember a few months ago, one of my seniors from my Rotary Club was looking to sell their villa, their 나눕니다 세대주택, and they asked me to value their property with our AI. Before we provided our valuation, their expectation for that property was about 16억 won to 18억 won. However, when our AI valued this property, we estimated that same property would be about 14억 won. So after providing our valuation, the owner of that property was able to lower their expectation to about 15억 won.
Right.
However, a couple of weeks went by, the owner contacts me and actually says, we got an offer for very, very close to 14억 won. So in essence, our data was correct.
그럼 현재 한국 부동산 시장이 가지고 있는 문제점이 있다고 하면 어떤 것들이 있을까요?
So currently, banks and other financial institutions use a couple different methods to value property. The first method is either to ask a third-party appraisal company. However, when they do that, it takes time and it also takes money to ask them sometimes. So sometimes loan officers could feel a little bit burdened to reach out and ask them to value a small-sized apartment. It may not be worth it for the appraiser to do that. Or they could actually use other online tools. But the problem with these other online tools is that they've been proven to either provide limited services or provide inaccurate services. So it's been difficult for banks and loan officers to really get accurate automated valuation model data.
Are there any solutions that Xiaoland can suggest?
Sure. We're currently developing automated valuation model solutions for the South Korean real estate market. As a financial innovative service, we're developing AI valuations for apartments, office towers, villas that are less than 50 units. So we hope to provide this service to banks and other institutions so they can more confidently and safely provide mortgages.
네, 그렇다면 과연 우리는 앞으로 부동산 시장을 어떤 관점으로 바라보는 게 필요할까요?
Yeah, right. So if I had to give my opinion on what perspective we should have is say a couple things. The first one is I know in South Korea, everybody is craving to find the best, the most newest apartment in the hottest of areas, like Gangnam, Seocho, Songpa. When I think about this, I think about my hometown of Long Island in New York. It's difficult for American citizens to even get a property in Manhattan. It's very common for people to live outside of quote-unquote the city. So my recommendation would be, just because it might be difficult to get an apartment, specifically an apartment in those very hot downtown areas, don't let that discourage you. There are other locations in Seoul or even in the suburbs of Seoul that could be more affordable. Second, don't only limit your search to apartments. There are other kinds of residential asset classes that could just as easily be a good starter home for newly married couples. One of my colleagues at my company, XAI Land, just recently got married, actually this past weekend, and he and his wife found a really nice villa, 나눕니다 세대주택, in Yeongdeungpo. So I mean, just because you can't buy an apartment, don't get discouraged. There's other really good solutions out there, especially if you just married someone. And very lastly, this is one thing I'm taking from my experience living and growing up in the States, is that just because it's difficult to buy an apartment, don't let that discourage you, because you can also rent. In the West, and even in Southeast Asia, other parts of Southeast Asia, renting is becoming more and more popular among millennials and young people like us. We tend to move around from place to place. So even in South Korea, I know I can see more and more real estate developers and operators. They're developing more rental units for singles that live alone. So just because you can't buy an apartment now, don't get discouraged. There's other really cool real estate developments out there that are for rent. So it's definitely not a bad thing.
네, 여러분 방금 들으셨죠? 앞으로 렌트가 대세라고 합니다. 꼭 기억하시고 앞으로 부동산을 선택하시는 데 있어서 좀 다양한 옵션들이 있다는 거 염두에 두시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 근데 여기서 질문이 있어요. 대표님은 혹시 한국에서 어떻게 지내고 계신 거예요? Like, how are you living yourself in Korea?
So actually, I myself, I'm renting right now. I'm a wholesaler. So I found a nice villa in Gangnam. I've got my own rooftop and I'm renting. And yes, I do see apartment prices increasing, but I'm not really caring too much about it. Right now, I just know that I found a good place. The landlord is good and honest. The location is amazing. And I'm happy living there. I feel completely content. I'm not really thinking about when I will buy an apartment because I know that if I just work hard enough and just be honest, I'll be able to find a place sooner or later.
이번 행사가 전주에서 열리고 있어요. 그래서 제가 만약에 전주에 가서 살겠다 라고 할 경우 과연 어느 정도의 금액이 필요한지 한번 여쭤보고 싶거든요. What if I want to go to Jeonju to live? Like, do you have any data to suggest?
Sure. So first of all, what kind of real estate are you looking for in Jeonju?
오피스텔?
Looking for an office-tel? Okay. What size office-tel?
혼자 살 거니까 한 7평에서 9평 사이 정도면 어떨까요?
Okay. And I think you want to live in a somewhat new office-tel, right?
네, 새로운 곳이면 네.
So okay, an office-tel that was built within the past 10 years. In Jeonju, which gu would you like to talk about? In Jeonju, there's a Deokjin-gu and Wonsan-gu.
덕진구 해볼까요?
Deokjin-gu. So if you want to buy an office-tel in Deokjin-gu, all you would need is a little bit more than 1억 won.
여러분, 물론 작은 돈은 아닐 수 있겠지만 그래도 1억 원 정도면 서울이 아닌 전주에서 제가 제 명의로 된 오피스텔을 매매할 수 있다고 하네요. 매매 맞죠?
네, 맞죠.
네. 네, 오늘 대표님 만나 뵀는데요. 여러분 혹시 자이랜드에 대해서 더 알고 싶으시다면 링크드인에서는 Raymond Chetti, 그리고 페이스북에서는 자이랜드를 검색하시면 더 많은 정보를 만나보실 수 있습니다. 네, 혹시 대표님 마지막 인사 부탁드려도 될까요?
Thank you for inviting me to talk about current real estate. And if you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
네, 오늘 함께 해주셔서 감사합니다. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you very much.